Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Staykers. All right, so we live in this world that just changes so quickly that we don't really have language to describe everything that's happening. So I've been thinking a lot about the 2022 war in Europe, Vladimir Putin invading President Volodymyr Zelensky's country, and that's really what this is. This is just a fight between Vladimir Putin and President Volodymyr Zelensky. It's that simple. It's two men who absolutely just changed the world in one day. Is really what happened. All right. Excuse me. So basically, there are currently, kid you not, 7 million refugees from Ukraine. 7 million people from a country that started with 44 million people. Okay, there are 7 million refugees from Ukraine. Okay, and it's like, if you see each person as a glowing ember, this is, essentially the winds of wrath from Vladimir Putin have just struck Ukraine, and it's just a swirling storm of embers flying out to every country into Europe and into the U.S. Get this. I now know how many refugees the United States of America sets a goal to receive every year. They usually don't make it. They set a goal to receive 125,000 refugees every single year. Okay? So you have that. Excuse me. So you have that in place, right? President Biden just said we're going to bring in 100,000 refugees into America, which I think is fantastic. I'm very excited to receive Ukrainian refugees into America. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really glad that people are going to, be able to come to the best country in the world, right? Like, you're going from Ukraine, which is a great country, but let's not get it twisted. America's the best country in the world, right? And when I say that, it's not like a claim. People, you would not believe the lengths people go to get into the United States of America. People wait on lists for decades. They're quite literally, people die trying to get into America, like every day, I think, right? We are a very popular place to live, right? So that's 100,000 Ukrainians who are coming right here, right? So that's good. So the refugee, and America has a definition of a refugee. A refugee is someone who does not live in who is not in their country of origin, who can demonstrate that they have been persecuted for their race, their religion. I think gender is in there, and then or for being part of any particular social group, right? So that's a refugee. Now, that's a great word. I'm a huge fan of the Fugees. Refugee is a great, powerful word. People know what you mean when you say it. It carries some gravitas, right? It's a good word, right? But we need a new word for this new type of person who's rising up, right? And that is, okay, so Mariupol was under constant shelling, and there were 300,000 people there when a movie theater that was being used to house civilians was bombed, right? And 300,000 people still living in a city that's being shelled, right? So what do you call someone who is in a country that is being invaded, risks their life, and suffers directly as they refuse to leave their homeland? Well, I'm going to give you the word. I'm coining this word. It's John Scott Garibay word, and the word is Stayker. Stayker. I'll spell it. Stayker. Stay and Ker. Stayker. Okay. And I think this is a word that captures who and what these people are. So the people in Mariupol, this is inspired by the people of Mariupol because they stayed, right? And they drove a stake directly into the virtual heart of the world's greatest living villain, Vladimir Putin, right? And essentially, when you stay, you accomplish something. When you just simply say, I refuse to be a refugee, I refuse to leave my homeland, I refuse to move 1 inch from the land I own, I refuse to give up my sovereignty as a citizen of this sovereign nation, I refuse to be threatened, I refuse to be frightened, I refuse to go anywhere but my homeland. That is a Stayker, an Stayker, a Stayker. And that definition, you can find it right down below in case you want to send it to anybody to use. But I think this is, these people needed a word, right? And we're going to need this word if Vladimir Putin decides to invade Poland. And if he decides to break through Poland and shove on to France. And then he decides to go straight up and use bridging assets to go over the Bering Strait. And if he decides to take his 40-mile convoy of tanks and armored transports straight to New York City, we're going to need the word Stayker, right? And you should promise yourself now you are going to be a Stayker, not a refugee. I'm promising myself that. I'm promising I'm going to be a Stayker, not a refugee. Now, I have great respect for refugees. Everyone has the right to escape from the savagery of a global villain like Vladimir Putin. But if we're going to model, if we're going to mirror the bravery of the Mariupol people, if we're going to be Staykers, we have to decide it now, right? We need to set it into our hearts and minds. We will never give up our homeland. We will never surrender 1 inch of it, right? We live in a world created by Vladimir Putin where invasion from one sovereign nation to the other sovereign nation is not only a reality, but very much permissioned. Like, literally, they just met, like they did this NATO thing, and they said, we want to assure everyone we will not actually do any real help, right? We're not going to put, we're not going to give Volodymyr Zelensky what he really needs to fight. We're not going to put our greatest assets to the test. We're not going to actually help, right? Like, we're just going to, continue toothless sanctions. Here's another round of sanctions because sanctions have worked so well, right? Like, you just shake your head. You're like, can you believe the NATO nations got together and said, let's do more sanctions? Like, why? Why? Right? Isn't it embarrassing for you at this point? Like, is it embarrassing for every NATO nation? This ruse that they're trying, that any of this helps and it's not just performative so that they can look like they're not just watching as Ukraine burns? Right? It's so frustrating. Okay, yeah. Stayker, B1. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing and have a wonderful millennium.